Hello, everyone. This is Christina Mandlakiani, co-founder of Mind Valley, and welcome to Mind Valley Book Club interview series. And today I have a legendary guest, a guest that a lot of you know, and I know a lot of people actually were eager to come and join us. I'm very happy about that. And we're going to talk about the topic which is very dear to me, although after reading the book, I realized that the book is wider than just this topic. Welcome, everyone. And you already know who my guest is, obviously, because people come to meet my guests. But I will make a proper introduction as well. Apart from my small talk about the president of US visiting UK. So my guest today is Dave Asprey. Welcome, Dave, not welcome to Mind Valley. You've been to Mind Valley quite a few times, but welcome to Mind Valley Book Club.
I'm happy to be here, Christina. And I just love getting a chance to share all this stuff because I think it matters.
Thank you so much. And thank you for finding time to meet with us because I believe that Mind Valley Book Club audience is a little bit maybe different to the rest of the Mind Valley, at least for from one point of view. So in Mind Valley, we do love live performances like stage, we have video content. Our people love to read, which is a little bit different. So I guess the mode of consuming information is different, which is why I hope that our audience is a little bit different. So that's why welcome to Book Club. But before we go on, I have to make an introduction. Of course, my guest is a total legend, and people who love biohacking, of course, know Dave Asprey. And Dave, in addition to that, is legendary also as an entrepreneur. He's one of the first, internet entrepreneurs from the 1990s, as far as I understand, founder of several companies, including now here I'm a little bit on the shaky ground because your official bio says you're founder of Bulletproof coffee, something which I know, but in your book you use the word dangerous coffee.
I created Bulletproof and grew it to be a large company. And then investors took it over, and I have nothing to do with Bulletproof anymore. So Danger Coffee is my new, totally separate brand. And it's called Danger because who knows what you might do. And when we meditate or do anything that makes us more energetic, our ability to take a risk and to choose to do it and still be in charge of ourselves is there. And most things worth doing have some degree of risk. And when you overcome that resistance to things that aren't dangerous but feel scary, that's what I'm talking about. Even skiing, it might be dangerous, but it's fun. Or maybe starting a company sounds scary, or deciding to go on a retreat and heal. It's scary. That's why that energy is so important.
Most famous fear in all people is going on stage, which isn't really dangerous, but
exactly. So who knows what you might do when you have enough energy? You might go on stage.
That's just the beginning. You're also the founder of Upgrade Lab. I know that when we started, you have the beautiful logo right above you, but right now we're not seeing it. Also, you run the conference, Biohackers Conference. You are the founder of 40 Years of Zen Neurofeedback Laboratory, and a lot of wonderful endeavors or undertakings, mostly geared towards improving people's health, energy, and longevity.
Longevity and consciousness. The thing is, when I started the biohacking movement, the idea is you have control of your state. And most of us think, it's by trying hard. It's by changing the environment around you and the environment inside you. So it's who do you spend time with? What is your lighting like? What are you eating? How are you sleeping? What are the things that make you more powerful? And once you get that, you go, I think I want to live longer because I feel so good. And then you say, now that I'm going to live longer, I've got to work on this core problem of how do I be happy? So anyone who starts biohacking becomes longevity and consciousness focused.
Thank you so much. And Dave, I do have this habit of doing casual introductions by memory. So sometimes I might say a word wrong or maybe miss something. Of course, I know what I missed out. Dave is also several times New York Times bestsellers author. So I think 4 or 5 times, right? An author of quite a few
9 books, and 4 of them hit the big list. And the other ones, I just heavily meditated. The one we're talking about just became the #1 best-selling philosophy book in the US and the #1 best-selling meditation book. I didn't even try to write a philosophy book.
Well, it is definitely more philosophy than meditation, in my opinion. Although meditation is also philosophy, but let's not be philosophical. So, also the of quite a lot of books, including the heavily meditated, which we are discussing today. That's the bio by memory by me. But if I've left something out, which is, yes, one more thing. In the beginning of your career, you lost quite a big amount of weight, and that's what launched you on this journey, right?
It was more that my brain quit working and I had to fix my brain, and I lost weight. And I'm going to do something that if you're in Europe is shocking and only slightly offensive, but I was a 300-pound computer hacker and I just got off an airplane, but like these are my abs. And I work out 20 minutes a week. The calendar thinks I'm 52. And my lab tests think I'm closer to 35, depending on which lab you want to look at. So if the fat computer hacker guy can do it, it's probably going to be easier for you. And of all the books I've written, Heavily Meditated is the most important book,
Mm,
because if you can get that inner peace sense and learn how to consciously enter altered states for healing or for high performance, it creates a kind of freedom that makes it easy to have the body you want or easy to have the life you want. It's friction from inside your operating system that's causing so much of the problems that we're dealing with today. So this is the hardest book to write, and it took 10 years of data of measuring brainwaves, including Vishen's brainwaves at 40 years of Zen, which he wrote about in his books.
yeah.
So I measured the brainwaves of high performance people, executives, and people doing big things in the world, and then said, well, what meditation actually works? And the goal is not what most of us have heard from either a therapist or a meditation teacher. They're going to tell you what I learned in a monastery in a remote part of Nepal on my way to Mount Kailash in Tibet. And they'd say, sit on the cushion, put your hands
Mm,
like this, and then notice the intrusive thoughts, and the thoughts
mm,
come in, and then gently set them aside. Now, there's another analogy. Let's say you're holding up your phone and you
yeah.
go, hey, doc, I'm trying to do work on my phone, and these alerts from TikTok and my text messages and all these apps, they just keep popping up. And they're like, oh, no problem. Just gently swipe to the left, swipe to the left, gently refocus on it. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. What if someone taught you to pick up your phone and go into the settings and turn off the alerts that weren't useful? Then you could do your work. Your
Mm-hmm.
body has an operating system, your body has alerts, and you didn't turn them on. They just got turned on by your environment, by the way you grew up, by just stuff in the world. So heavily meditated is, how do you go in all the different ways to go in and turn off the things that trigger you, that don't
Mm-hmm.
serve any purpose? Because every time you're triggered, what it means is that you're carrying a loaded gun. That's what the word means. And even worse, someone else's fingers on the trigger.
Mm,
And I mean, here in the UK, it's not even legal to have a pocket knife, much less a gun. So you can't be triggered. It's not okay. Right. So, how do we become more in charge of ourselves? It's not by, oh, I noticed I was triggered and I gently set the trigger to the side. It's good if you can do that. It's just a waste of energy. And I want you to have all the energy for evolving yourself. And
mm.
that's why this is such important work. It's different than normal meditation.
Mm. Thank you so much, Dave, for this beautiful analogy, and I think it's very vivid and kind of cool to keep in mind. I'm so glad you told me that you think that this book is more important, because somewhere in the back of my mind, I was wondering, how is this book different from the other books that you wrote? Because when you interview book authors, and especially book authors who have written a few books, you always wonder, so do you
Yeah.
have something new to say? So thank you for kind of touching upon this topic, because I think it's important. What I wanted to ask as the first question was that the book is called Heavily Meditated, but when I read the book, I realized that you cover so much more than just meditation. In fact, as you just described, there is no specific protocol for meditation. Sit like this. There is a lot more. There is breath work. There is, there is work with your triggers. The brain science and everything. So how would you define that work then? Because you use the word meditated, which is based on meditation, but obviously you put so much more in that meaning.
We're capable of altered states, and meditation is just one way of entering an altered state. And when I say altered states, a lot of people say, well, are you talking psychedelics? There's a chapter on psychedelics. And there are many things from around the world. We've been studying for thousands of years. How do we take our normal consciousness and make it better? But what does better even mean? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're feeling really stressed right now, you want a technique that's going to allow you to calm yourself and return to baseline quickly. So one technique could be just a straight meditation technique. Another technique, and there's all these are covered in the book, like every technology, every technique that you I think that exists, at least that we know of, is in heavily meditated. So maybe changing how you breathe is going to be faster than just meditating,
Mm-hmm.
right? So which one's better? Neither one is better,
Yeah, I
right?
guess it depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, and it depends on you. So when you read heavily meditated, I explain sort of why your body does what it does that creates all these things that trigger you, all these points of resistance. There's a reason for it, and it has to do with survival. And then I'm explaining in the book, here's the different states you might seek and the paths that we know will reliably get you there. And as you read it, if you're paying attention to your body, you're going to say, oh, I don't know why, but when I read that one, it was just sparkly. It was interesting. You know, maybe I got the hairs on the back of my neck, but I'm interested. Go do that one. You don't have to do all the things in the book. Very few people will spend 6 months with the electrodes glued to their head meditating to see what works. But I actually did that over the course of 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at more than 1,000 brains for 5 days with the electrodes glued on them doing meditation in order to write this book. So the idea is meditation is one path to get there, but meditation is very slow. What would we do? Well, let's take some percentage of our population, usually the weird ones, and let's put them in a cave or a monastery or a teepee or somewhere. And you go pay attention to how you pay attention and write down everything you see and study everything that your ancestors said. Come up with something new, put it on a scroll, and we'll save that. And eventually we're going to figure out how this all works.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have computers now. we can do it faster.
That's true. Can I ask a question? Because you do use a lot of words in the book which are kind of curiosity-inducing in contemporary world, and I have to confess that I don't interview a lot of books on biohacking. So you're probably one of the few. So that's why I'll use the chance and ask. There's this. The altered states. This is something that we talk about, but we don't go into definition what it is. And if you kind of just hear it, of course you give it your own meaning. In my case, sometimes
Yeah.
I imagine something like almost hallucinogenic experience. Like
Yeah.
you're not here. So how do you define altered states, and why are they good for us apart from being enjoyable and
Sure.
fun?
Well, your average state isn't that much fun. I'm pretty good. I'm just kind of doing whatever I'm doing. And then you go into a flow state and you're doing something and there's many different ways to get into a flow state. And you're going, oh, wow, like things are so interesting and it's so easy and I feel connected. You're in an altered state. You're not in your average state, right? And then let's say that you go on a romantic date with your lover and you have an amazing night and you have some romantic activity later. That is a very altered, sacred state, and you're going to go places. And there's a chapter in the book, a tasteful chapter on that, because for some people, intimacy creates deeper altered states, including the altered state of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Healing itself, whether it's emotional or physical healing, it's not your normal state. In your normal state, you're taking in some air and some food and you're doing some stuff, but the body doesn't go into a healing state. So anything that's not your average is altered. And also highly stressed and anxious is an altered state. So, oh, wait, you mean the state of my consciousness and the state of my body, it's a sliding switch and I can take it wherever I want to take it. So let's make the map of where we can go. And then let's figure out what is the best way of transporting myself to that state. And my bet is that if you took the time to read this book, and if you're a regular reader, you care something about how your mind works.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're taking the time to read. I feel like every time you read a book, especially nonfiction, it's installing an app in your brain. It's a new way of seeing the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's how even I teach my kids the value of reading, because every time you see the world through another person's eyes, that's another way of being able to perceive reality. And so when you read Heavily Meditated, I want you to start looking at, wow, what's the state of my consciousness right now? What's the state of my body? Is it the state I choose? And if it's not the state that I choose, now you know that you can change your state. And it
Mm-hmm.
may be like me, I'm really fat. So I'm going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be that I thought, well, I'm just going to do what it's supposed to work. I'm just going to go work out a lot. I'm going to eat very little. And it didn't work. And for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us, we're saying, I'm stressed and I'm anxious all the time. So I'm just going to try to calm down. And when does that ever work? It doesn't, because no one taught you the techniques and the skills to do that. And in Heavily Meditated, and I'm guessing most people have read it when you get into the questions, there's kind of 3 buckets of types of breath work. And
Mm-hmm.
one type of breath work is to calm the body down. Another one is for focus. And another one is to go on a visionary journey, and almost as if you've taken psychedelics. So you might, number one, it's important to know the breath changes your state. Number 2, which breath lets me get into which state?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing you'd want to know is, what state am I in right now when I started doing the breath work? Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
super anxious and you want to do the hallucinating breath work, you might want to do a couple breaths to calm down first. So this is a tool set.
Yeah.
You've got the map, and you've got, do you need to take an airplane? Do you need to take the train? Should you walk?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what Heavily Meditated is.
Yes,
Let's do some questions from people. Yeah.
that's actually true. The book is very thorough with all the suggestions. So, for example, if it's breath work, there is a huge buffet of different techniques. The same about pretty much every chapter. You did mention sexuality, which I forgot to mention, but I think it's also remarkable. Sexual energy, actually, and. The chapter on psychedelics. So, I mean, if you are on the front line of biohacking, I think you will be very intrigued by this book and excited, and it's very practical. Now, you know, I want to make a little lyrical sidestep. I'm sorry, just because you
Sure.
mentioned reading and your kids, and I remember in the book you mentioned that you learned to read at you were like 18 months, super
Yeah.
early. So, are you still an avid reader? How much? I'll ask all the questions straight at once. Do you read a lot right now? Do you still read? Do you shortcut with AI your reading journeys? Can you comment a little bit on your reading habits?
I'll share something I haven't shared anywhere before. Okay. I have done a lot of spiritual work. I've done shamanic training. I've traveled around the world. I've studied with different gurus as part of understanding both the logical and the mystical side of being human. And over the years, I've gotten to the point where I buy books. People send me books. In fact, my library is only signed books, because I've interviewed 1,350 people on my podcast, and
Mhm.
I'm so blessed to know authors. In fact, I have Vishen's book on the shelf. Obviously, of course, it's signed because we're friends. But for a lot of the books, I buy them and I set them down. And there's
Mm.
a Japanese word for that I pronounce wrong. And so, if you're from Japan, tell us what the word is so I can say it right. But I set it down, and then I am guided by, I don't know, the universe, by my subconscious. I'll pick up the book and I'll open it to the right pages, and I'll read the page, and I won't know why I'm reading it. And within 24 hours, I needed that page to talk about in an interview or to share with a friend or someone who needed it. So now I'm surrounded by books, and I've read at least 10,000 books. I have a whole room full of the books I've read. I have a bunch of books I haven't read that call to me when it's time for me to read one. That's something that just emerged in my life. I could not read all the books that arrive at my house, but I just read the right sections, the right ones, right when I need them.
Mhm.
Either that or I've just convinced myself that's true, but I like that. So that's what I do.
I like this side note, but since you mentioned that, I know in your book you also talk about intuition, which is a very uncommon topic, I believe, in biohacking. Not that I know this niche very well, but biohacking sounds just so much more physical.
Just biohacking, it's the art of changing your state. And so biohacking, it starts with the body,
Yeah.
because when you can make the body more energetic, your ability to connect to these mystical states, even just to love more purely, it increases a lot. So if you're
Mhm.
tired all the time, it's very hard to do the deep work. So biohacking restores your energy, and it can change your body or how you look, but really it's about consciousness, cognitive enhancement, intelligence, and connectedness to others. It's a
Mhm.
community movement.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is it's in heavily meditated, but your body processes reality before your mind does. And it does this. We can measure it with computers. This is not made up.
Yeah.
And it's that when you walk into a room in real time, your cells, your mitochondria, they will look and say, is there something scary here? Now, you didn't get to think of if it was scary. They already decided long before your eyes or your ears even got a good message whether you were going to feel scared about something. So, this is a distributed intelligence throughout your body designed to keep your body alive, as if you were a rabbit or a lizard. It doesn't matter. This is not the human part of you. And since it gets to see reality first, it says, is it scary? These are all F words. So, there's fear. And then the next F word is food. Is it going to eat me, and can I eat it? And then the
Mhm.
next F word is, well, there's a chapter on it too. We'll call it fertility in polite company, right? So what that means is, if all the time before you can think, your body's like, should I run away?
Mhm.
Can I eat it? And can I hump its leg? And so all the things we've ever done that we're ashamed of, every single thing comes from ancient bacteria running your body as if your brain isn't even in there.
Mhm.
And all of our resistance, all of these triggers are coming from that system. And I say all, that's probably an exaggeration. Some triggers come from programming you have, a belief you have that can
Mhm.
circle back in, but the vast majority of this just comes from your body reacting. And meditation and all the techniques in heavily meditated, it's about learning that this system is present and how to reprogram that system so that it better matches reality, so you can be more present in your body and in the world. And it's incredibly liberating to
Mhm.
understand it's not that you're a bad person if you thought about eating all of the cheesecake and then going out on a date with the entire soccer team or whatever your thing is. Like, it doesn't matter. This is just your body trying to make sure that we'll have babies at some point for the species and make sure you don't starve to death.
Mhm.
And it's dumb. It's just very fast.
Mhm.
So every time I've ever done something that I wish I didn't do, I understand the origins of that. It wasn't that I chose to do it. It wasn't that I'm a bad person. It's that I have survival urges, and that my meat, my hardware, isn't that well programmed, and it's better than it used to be, and it's continuously improving. And I want everyone who hears this to understand all the things you've done that you're ashamed of, that you might even think I'm a bad person or I'm weak. None of that is true. It's just that your body's trying to stay alive in the way it comprehends reality. So you might as well make your body less reactive to things, so that
Mhm.
when it sees food, you don't feel like you're going to starve if you don't eat it. When it sees someone attractive, you don't feel like you're going to die if you don't go on a date with them. And if someone walks in the room who looks like someone who bullied you 25 years ago, you don't get a stress response without even knowing why.
Mhm.
This is what makes you present in the world. And what's beautiful about this work is that after those first three F words, the next one is friend. We're wired in our bones to be kind to each other. And one
Mhm.
of the biggest problems in the world right now is that people are so triggered because we have these fear responses, and then we're hungry all the time because we're not eating food that's nourishing.
Mhm.
And then we're lonely all the time intimately, like we're not connected to our partners. So there's no energy left for our community. But we
Mhm.
are wired to be kind to other people's children, to help our elders cross the street when they need it. And when we don't have enough energy to be kind to others, it's actually stressful. So I just want your energy to flow smoothly, because you're not wasting it on being afraid of things that aren't actually scary.
Mhm. I think this is such a beautiful explanation and actually makes biohacking so much more humane and like down to earth to every single human being. So thank you for this beautiful explanation. Oh, a question came. Maybe I'll ask my philosophical question a little later. So the question, would you recommend the hard copy or the audiobook? That's an interesting question, actually. I do want you to answer that question, Dave.
I read all of my books, and I've done professional voice training. And I think that words have power when they're spoken by the author.
Mhm.
So I think my publisher would love for me to say, buy the hard copy, because I think that counts more towards the list. But you know what? Buy the audiobook, because the audiobook, I think it resonates better. And you can listen to it on 1.5x, but don't listen on 2x. If you accelerate someone's voice too much, you don't get all of the information that's in the words.
Hmm. And the voice also gets altered, which is funny. But guys,
Yeah.
I will give my own recommendation. Do get both if you like the audiobooks. I know people usually use audiobooks to save time, so because they can do it, for example, when they're jogging or listening to the book and getting the information. But I think for your brain, it's good also. The reading activity itself is nice, and I've heard people, especially people with dyslexia, where they listen to the book, but they also look at what part is being
Yeah.
read. I think this is a wonderful combination. And come on, I mean, if you like something, if you're done with the book, you can pass it to a friend. So there are
And
never too many books.
for almost every book on my Audible, which I have about 500 books on there, I have the matching hard copy as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. And if you have more questions, do send them in. Meanwhile, my philosophical question. We were talking about that during altered states. You said altered state is different than, let's say, the state of homeostasis, which is just like your life, everything is okay. But
Right.
and it can go both ways. And right now we were also chatting a little bit in this in the context of there are triggers and they can take us out of our good state. So what would be the ideal? Because do you believe that you can train yourself to actually never get triggered, so that your body doesn't run the show anymore? It's actually somewhere else where you make all the decisions and you live your life and you don't get any spikes. Or is there like a golden balance of how well you can feel, how often you can be in altered state? Why I'm asking it as a philosophical question is that, philosophically
Mhm.
speaking, if you're 100% of the time in an altered state, then what's your not altered state?
Ooh, I like the philosophical side of this. Advanced monks and meditators are exceptionally hard to trigger. However, there are times when it might actually be beneficial. So if you're walking through the forest and a tiger jumps out, or say you lean on a hot stove accidentally, you want the automated system that keeps you safe to kick in, so that you'll pull your hand away instead of having to think about it. Oh, look, I smell burning hand. Oh, that's my hand. We're too slow, right? So recognize that the ego, which is what we're talking about, that it is the operating system that keeps your body alive. It's the same system that makes sure your heart pumps and that you breathe when you're not paying attention. It handles automated life for you. So what you want to do is say, only be triggered when my life is actually at risk. So this is not about not having feelings. It's about being aware of everything and having feelings that are beneficial.
Hmm.
So let's say that you saw something happen in the news in the last couple of days, and there's some big things that have happened. Now, someone who's at peace, which is really what this is about, is how to be at peace. Oh, you're like, oh, look, something happened, and maybe you wish it didn't happen. Maybe you can have compassion for whatever person you agree with. And you can also simultaneously have compassion for the person who did the thing you don't agree with. And you can say, wow, I wonder what bad things happened in his childhood for the person who did whatever you didn't like. Right. And you can just have compassion. And when you do enough of this kind of meditation and healing work, that state of inner peace is deeply tied not to empathy, but to compassion. And in advanced spiritual teachings from different lineages, the first step of awakening is actually having empathy for other people. But empathy is still a low vibration state, because it means that you're feeling other people's feelings. And that isn't necessarily a beneficial thing to do. And if you don't believe me, go to a McDonald's and feel everyone's feelings. Like they're probably all hungry. Or worse yet, go to a protest and feel everyone's feelings. All the rage, all the anger, all the victim mindedness, you don't want to take that on. It's not going to benefit you. It might feel good because it's energizing, but it's not going to be of benefit to you. And if you take the next spiritual step, which is compassion, instead of saying, oh, I feel that person's pain, I feel that person's anger, you switch to, before you can even think, I automatically wish them well. Like I want both sides to be happy and peaceful, right? And then you, because you're in that state, you're able to observe what's happening. You're, oh, I wonder if what I'm hearing is true. I wonder why that guy's doing that. I know why that guy's doing that. And then you can choose, instead of being programmed or triggered to do something, you can say, you know, I would like to change this. I am going to take right action from a state of consciousness instead of a state of unconsciousness to do something. And the vast majority of the time, when there is conflict, whether it's in a family or it's in society or it's anywhere, even trolls online, these are people who've dropped out of being conscious into a reactive state that is around fear. And if we can have people who are conscious, we are not going to be unkind to each other when we're conscious. There are much better solutions that are actually win-win. But when we're fearful, we choose win-lose solutions where I have to win and you have to lose. And that doesn't make society a better place. And worse, it makes you unhappy. Even if you win, you'll have a brief, I got my revenge, I showed them. But you're not going to sleep well because it feels a lot better. Like, you know what? Whatever the problem was I was trying to solve, I got it solved. I got what I needed. Oh, and the other guy, even if I didn't like him, he also got what he needed. Like this is how we make the world a better place. Be less triggered. You get to be in charge of you. And then other people treat you differently. And then even if other people are unkind to you, it doesn't hurt the way it did before, because it's whatever they did wasn't about you. They just did it. And it was about probably their childhood. So it really creates peace. And that's why in the subtitle on Heavily Meditated, this is a fast path to reaching inner peace. And the reason I chose peace is that different people will say, what's the opposite of fear? It's like, oh, some people say love. And I've had many different answers to it. But ultimately, peace is the opposite of fear. Because if you're in a state of peace, it's easy to feel love. It's easy to do anything. But if you're in a state of fear, everything is hard, right? And so for each of these core states that your body is struggling for, it's so worried about things that might be dangerous because for 2 billion years, there's been things trying to eat us. So we're just trying to stay alive. But if that's not what's actually happening and we're acting like that's what's happening, that's a problem. Oh, here's a cool question from Alex. Best meditation practice to overcome inner blocks that hold you back. Alex, here's what I'd recommend. About 2/3 of the way through Heavily Meditated, there's a chapter on the reset process from 40 Years of Zen. Now, CEOs spend $20,000 to come through the program and to do this really deep practice. And I'm teaching the full practice in the book on how to turn off triggers. So these inner blocks are just your operating system trying to keep you safe. So what you do is, and I'm just going to explain some steps of the process. There's 8 steps in the process. And what you do is you say, all right, how does my body feel when I'm hitting that inner block, whatever it is? And if you just kind of relax and look, maybe you feel it in your gut, or in your chest, or in your knee. It's less likely, but it can be anywhere. So, and then from a place of curiosity, you say, when's the first time that you ever recall your body feeling that way? And this is where it gets crazy. Some kind of weird thing will pop in your head. It's usually, oh, in 7th grade, I was bullied, or there was that time when my parents yelled at me, or a teacher. It could be anything weird. So you say, okay, I'd never thought about it before, but that feeling in my body matches that. So now what you're really dealing with is the first time you felt that way. And every time after that you felt that way, it was just your body saying, well, there was that one time I was dysregulated. So it's just replaying that old script. That was when the alert got set. The notification keeps popping up on your screen got set then. So then you run the reset process against that. And the reset process involves all these different steps, but basically sitting the other person down who's involved in that, and then going through a set of visualizations. And the most important step is that in order to turn off an alert like that, your body has to go through 2 states in order. And the first state is gratitude or awe. And that means if, let's say that someone bullied you in 5th grade or something, I don't know. And if that happened, you go, okay, what was the good thing that came about from that? And it doesn't matter how big the good thing is. The good thing, well, maybe there's that one time they didn't steal my lunch money, or, maybe I finally stood up and I learned to be strong. It doesn't really even matter. Just find one tiny good thing. Could have been a terrible thing. I got in a car accident. What's the one good thing? Well, I still have both legs. There, you've got some gratitude. And this is not for your mind, it's for your body, because gratitude flips a switch. And it's like the spark of gratitude lights the fire of forgiveness, of healing. And then you step into the next part of the reset process, which is in order to see it from the other person's perspective. And you realize you're looking at this other person and they're just a flawed person. And in your mind, you probably have told yourself a story, they're this monster, this mean person, and they hate you, or whatever your inner narrative is. And you realize, their mom was mean to them. And they were running an old program. They didn't even choose to do what they did. They were just doing something because they were programmed. And you start suddenly feeling compassion for them. And if you do gratitude followed by forgiveness, you get compassion. And pretty soon you give the other person what I describe in the book, a state of grace. Like, okay, you're in a state of grace, and whatever they did, it just wasn't about me. It wasn't about you. It was about their own trauma. And something interesting happens. The emotion that's tied to that experience, it stops. You don't feel it in your body anymore. And I had one guy come through 40 years of Zen, where we do this structured process with a computer glued to your head. It's in Seattle, Washington, and people fly from all over the world there to do it. And he'd lost $500 million in one day. So a guy has all the resources in the world. But I looked at him and I said, okay, tell me about your mom. And he starts crying. And he had trauma from his family. So he worked through and he did the reset process on the way he grew up with his parents. And he called me a couple of weeks later and he said, I just spent Christmas at my mom's house. And for the first time in my entire life, we didn't fight at all. I don't have words for this. Like what just changed? His mom didn't change. He changed. Right? That's how powerful this can be. Yeah. So read the book, go to the chapter on the reset process, Alex, and do the steps one at a time and start with something easy. And once you learn the state, it's a felt sense. You feel it in your heart and you can play it back, that feeling, and it becomes easier and easier. Forgiveness is a muscle that you can train. It's a state. It's an altered state you can train. And I want to be really clear. The word forgiveness is a trigger for most of us. And that's why I call it the reset process, not the forgiveness process. And the reason forgiveness is triggering is that we've all been told by a parent or a teacher, forgive your sister, forgive your brother, forgive this. Forgiveness has nothing to do with saying, I forgive you, and has nothing to do with saying that something was okay. Forgiveness is just the act of turning off your reactivity to something. Because if you're reactive to something, it doesn't matter. It's going to steal your energy. There's no way around it. So stop being reactive to things because it's too expensive in your life. And I've gone through some deep forgiveness work, including some stories I share in Heavily Meditated, where these are big betrayals. I could walk around for the rest of my life being bitter and angry, or I could do the hard work of the reset process. And now I'm free of that. And I can talk about things. And it's not that when I talk about them, I'm saying, I was betrayed and all these bad things happened and I'm going to be okay. And poor me, none of that. there's just no emotion other than the same normal, like compassion. And, I'm grateful that I got the lesson finally. And
Mm,
so many of us walk around with enormous pain internally that we don't share with other people. And we feel anxious all the time. And it's because our body's just trying to be safe. And
mm,
that's why I wrote Heavily Meditated. It is my most important book by far, because if you can be free of that, it's going to be so much better. Problem is, if your brain is running at half energy, it's really hard to do forgiveness work. And that's why the biohacking component of just having enough energy to do this, it's important. Maybe some breath work is going to help you get into that state, because that can help you have more energy.
mm,
And when we're at our full power as human beings, I know that in our bones, inside our cells, we are kind to ourselves and we're kind to other people. And
mm.
it's just old stuff that gets in the way.
Thank you so much for this beautiful answer. And I'm really happy you mentioned forgiveness, because I did want to touch upon this topic as well. I am very honored that you consider this book the most important. And as you guys probably would have guessed already, it has a very strong philosophical side to it. Well, it is one of the top philosophy books right now, I understand, right? And for those of you who haven't read it yet, it is very thorough. So obviously we won't be able to get into every topic. I do recommend you get it and you go deep to understand the various components of altered states. But Dave, before we finish, I wanted to just say it's kind of cool that forgiveness in essence becomes this ultimate practice. I remember when Vishen came from 40 years of Zen, he came and he said, Christina, you don't understand. It's all about forgiveness. And he also shared so many stories. And I was like, this is amazing. I mean, I don't consider myself a biohacker. I'm very kind of alien to that area, but forgiveness is something which unites us all. And that's an amazing, amazing tool. Now, I want to ask my traditional last question, because we do have to finish this interview. So first of all, those of you who are listening to us live, do leave a heart for my guest. And those who are listening to it in recording, leave a heart under the video or the audio, because it still matters. I believe love is one of those things that transcends distance and space and time. And my traditional question today, you partially answered it, but still, how would you like your book to change the world?
I would like Heavily Meditated to help people have more inner peace. And because of that, it has the potential to create a lot more kindness and a lot more happiness. I genuinely believe our natural state, when we just process all this stuff, is a pretty amazing state. So it's going to change the world, and it is changing the world by giving people control of their own reactivity.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who joined us and listened to this interview. It was actually on slightly different topics than I anticipated, so that was a surprise to me. Thank you, Dave, so much for finding time and joining my Mind Value Book Club audience. I do love my audience very much because we love to read, and that's something that unites us. And if you're not following Mind Value Book Club yet, do sign up, because, as I like to say, I have access to the world's best authors. And see you again soon. Bye bye.
See you again soon.